Welcome everyone back to another rendition of the B&H virtual event space. I am your humble host, Derek Fahsbender, and today, as you see, we're talking gear. Exciting release today. We're going to be talking about the Sony Alpha ZV-E10, and I have my powerhouse of heavy hitters here to join me and talk tech stuff. Jake Estes is joining me, senior video producer here at B&H. We got a couple of wonderful content creators, Dunna, who is from the YouTube channel Dunna Did It. Also, Kristen and Sia from Hopscotch the Globe. And our cleanup hitter for the day, the titan of tech, Mike Bubolo from Sony. So let's start it off and just give you guys a quick introduction of everyone. Jake, tell us where you're from. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hello, hi, I'm Jake. I'm a senior video producer at the YouTube channel here at B&H. I've been making product reviews and tutorials for the channel for about 4 years now, and I also did the review of the ZV-E10 as well. It went live yesterday, and happy to talk about it.
Wonderful. Dunna, I know we woke you up early for this, so tell us where you're coming to us from, a little bit about you.
I'm the only one in a different time zone. I'm content creator, video photo shooter. I have the channel Dunna Did It. Mostly talk about video photo stuff, camera reviews, tutorials, that kind of stuff. And I'm over in Edmonton, Alberta, hanging out in mountain time zone here.
Wonderful. And Kristen and Sia have assured us that those are boat speakers, but they are not floating across the ocean right now. So Kristen and Sia, welcome. Where are you coming to us from now? And tell us a little bit about your work.
Yeah, so we're currently sitting across from each other in our Airstream, which we live in full time. And we are currently traveling across the US for the next 5 months. And we're in Nebraska right now. We travel the world for a living, and we also live in our Airstream and travel, and we just recently bought land in Costa Rica, so we're going to be building our house there. But all our content's all about travel, how to travel with a family, how to travel as a couple, how to solo travel even if you have kids and you're in a relationship, so kind of like all of it.
So I basically have no excuse.
Yeah, like I said, we're here in our Airstream. It's our 31-foot Airstream. We live in full time. Our daughter's also here. She's in the back. She's enjoying playtime. And we've been using Sony since tape, like since DV tape. I was editing on tape by our first video. So it's amazing to see the progression of these cameras and just how much can be packed in such a tight little package.
That's awesome. Well, welcome to you both from the Wild West. Mike, take it home.
All right, Mike Bubolo with Sony Electronics. I manage the pro support team, and those that are aware of pro support, we support professional photographers and events throughout the country. Support events like the Olympics right now. Even though we can't be there, we're supporting all the photographers virtually and on with FaceTime and sitting on the computer till 2 a.m. Working with them. So anytime that we're needed, we're there. So we have a team throughout the country to support all professionals, to be able to loan gear, support you. If you have a camera in for repair, we can set you up with a loaner, and that's it. We're here to be able to support creatives and to support photography in general. So
well, and that you do. A huge thank you to Sony for sponsoring today's event. And I want to remind all of our viewers and thank you all for showing up from YouTube, Facebook, live stream, and of course those joining us here on Zoom. Your questions are what we want to talk about today. So we are going to get into the tech stuff. We're going to get into experience, but any questions you have on the ZV-E10, get them in. You can drop a comment or a question on YouTube, Facebook, live stream. If you're joining us here on Zoom, we do have that wonderful Q&A module, but I'm going to bring it back to Mike. You know the drill here, Mike. We want to know what we're talking about. Take us into who is this at? What is it? What are we talking like spec-wise?
I wanted to talk more to Kristen about traveling with kids, because to me it's really hard.
We'll dive into that.
Anytime.
Yeah, we'll have to do that offline. A whole nother podcast. So the ZV-E10, it's a long time waiting. I know there's been lots of rumors about it for a long time, but it's finally here. And we're really, again, at Sony, we're react to the needs of the customers. And throughout the pandemic and even before that, we saw a really growing market for people doing self-shooting, vloggers, webcams, content creators that need something that's just, they want to get that creative look, but they want something that's simple. They want something that's easy to use and in one simple package without having to have, all the accessories and gimbals and things like that. So we came out with the ZV-1, and it was wildly popular throughout the entire pandemic because it worked amazing as a webcam, but also as a self-shooter, as a vlogging tool and a creative tool. Obviously, you can manipulate it and make it as manual as you want, but we wanted to take it a step further because people are looking to separate themselves. There's so many content creators out there, and you want to be able to have your look be different than other people's to be able to just gain just visual interest right off the bat. So we wanted to create a camera similar in philosophy to the ZV-1, but have a larger sensor. So we came out with the ZV-E10 with an APS-C size sensor, which is 3 times bigger than the sensor in the ZV-1. And it really opens up all these possibilities because now you have interchangeable lenses. So we have 64 lenses just from us that we make that you can put on this camera. So you can do macro, you can do telephoto, you can put a 600 f4 on there, you can do ultra wide, you can do fisheye, and combine all those looks to make your videos give you that real cinematic feel and that real professional look. Because once you start combining angles of view and once you start combining those creative elements, it really separates yourself from a lot of other people that are out there. And talking about ease of use, the camera does have things that seem like kitschy little marketing tools like product showcase, but they work. If you're doing a product showcase shot, you're able to just put the product right in front of your face and be able to show it without having to, you've seen people put their hands in front of their face, they try to put their hand in front of the product to make it automatically focus to the product, but the camera has a button that's automatically able to do it. To be able to go to the shallowest depth of field, giving you that really shallow depth of field behind you and that soft bokeh behind you with just one press of a button. And again, it's not just gimmicks, it's tools that work. And when you're self-shooting, sometimes you need these things because you can't manipulate the camera and focus on yourself at the same time. And with a lot of Sony products over the last year and a half now, the tool is able to do the work for you. So you can concentrate on your content, you can concentrate on composing, you can concentrate on your message. You don't have to worry about the technology because the camera is going to focus on your eyeball wherever it goes. The camera is going to be able to be manipulated and be able to do product showcase and make that background really shallow however you want very easily. Image stabilization built in, great audio built in without the need for all these other tools. And that's the ZV-10 in a nutshell.
Mike, I wanted to start actually right there on those little features that make everything easy. And it's funny because I feel like, the cameras in general, it's always been like, well, the more complicated, the more professional, and, people take it more seriously. And we've kind of seen like a renaissance of saying, no, we can put a button that clearly says this is to record video, and it's seen as beneficial rather than, oh, well, no, that makes it not look professional. And it's like, well, now we have a whole, internet full of people who just say, hey, well, I know nothing about photo or video, but this is what I want to do. I want to go out there and entertain people, or I want to document my life and my journey. And we have this whole influencer and content creator world that blew up, and products like this that 10 years ago, people would have been like, no, you're crazy for putting that feature on there. They're useful. So Jake, I want to throw it over to you because as senior video producer at B&H, for anybody who's ever watched our YouTube channel, which you all should check it out.
Yes.
You get your hands on a lot of gear across a wide swath of brands and this whole spectrum of gear out there.
Sure, yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about those features and what you see out there on products that you're using that, might not be as user-friendly, and why this is something that is perfectly cut out for content creators, especially people who are trying to get into the game?
Yeah, I mean, I use a lot of cameras, and I did the ZV-1 review last year, and I really loved that camera. We did the whole review in one. I got it the same day, and we shot it that day, and we had 2 of them. We just ran around New York City and explored what the city looked like in the middle of a quarantine. And it was just, I think I wrote down that like this kind of technology that Sony makes essentially eliminates the need for a camera person, because the AI is doing all the work that a camera person would do behind the camera. So it's really the quintessential one-man band single shooter camera, because the technology in the system just does all the work that someone behind the camera would normally do. So if you're in a position where, you know, you really want to make content, you have a lot to say, you know, you got a charismatic personality, but you don't have the time or the resources to like go learn all about videography or photography, but you know you want to have something to say, this camera is perfect for that, because it's going to do all that work for you. You set it in intelligent auto mode, and it's going to expose, it's going to focus. The mic that's built into it is solid and sounds really good. And yeah, that was my takeaway with ZV-1. And then when you put a larger sensor and you add the versatility of interchangeable lenses with all the lenses that Sony now has, and there's really nothing you couldn't shoot with the ZV-E10. So yeah, I was very pleased with the upgrade.
Wonderful. And Kristen and C, I want to kick it over to you guys, because obviously being on the road, traveling, especially with a child, again, Mike, we're going to have a whole nother workshop on that. But being on the road, I mean, something like this, it would make sense that sometimes you just want to grab a camera that is light, you can throw in your pocket and still get results. Do you guys find that something like this is going to fit into your workflow in that regard, or is there more to it for you?
Absolutely, yeah. Really depending on what we're doing. If we're hiking, if we're rock climbing, if we're going to be on a boat, we really select a camera that tunes to what we're going to be doing. And I can really see a lot of applications for this camera. The easy use, the flip screen, just to change a lens, because when we were using the RX for years, but we were a little limited by the lens. So now this really changes, what camera we'll grab.
Yeah, I love too that it's just so lightweight. You can literally just grab it, throw it in your purse or your backpack. The flip screen, obviously, for years. We've been using Sony. I've been using Sony for like 15 plus years now. And I've been like, where's the flip screen? Flip screen. So it's nice to see more flip screens on the cameras, because when you're a vlogger, you need that, especially if you're traveling alone, or as a travel vlogger traveling alone. It's good to see what you look like when you're vlogging. And the product showcase is really great too when you're working with brands and you're doing product reviews. I really, really love that feature. You don't have to like hold up your hand anymore, like trying to get everything in focus. Just like whoop. Yeah.
Dunna, what's been your experience so far using it?
It's cool. It's a really cool hybrid. And one of the first things that I said in my video is that it's technology that we've seen Sony do all over the place. You know, it's the sensor from the A6600. It's all those cool little features that we saw on the ZV-1. And it's kind of like all mashed together for kind of a specific user, but like really more the general public. And I think Jake brought this up earlier, and Mike did too, that this is all based on like what Sony has been seeing that people want. And this has been my experience too, is like there is this camera niche, and I think we all kind of have seen it and like are part of it, where we talk about cameras and we want the next best thing all the time. But there's also these people who are just about to start out, or who maybe have their big fancy camera but need something for quick and easy stuff. And I think that's where the ZV-E10 kind of comes in, is that super easy, like the buttons are all right there for you, that kind of thing. And I mean, when somebody's about to start a YouTube channel, like someone mentioned earlier, like you've got the personality, that kind of thing. Maybe you don't have any technical camera experience. The first thing you do is you say, I want to start a YouTube channel. You don't say, I want to go learn cameras. And so I think the ZV-E10 really nails that, in that like you can start a YouTube channel. Like you could go to B&H and buy your ZV-E10, go home and start a YouTube channel like that night if you want to, without really having to learn it. But it's still got all those things in there the same way that our other APS, Sony APS-C cameras have them. They're in there, they maybe don't have buttons or dials directly attached to them the way that some of the other cameras do, but you can kind of build up to that if you're the kind of person like me who wants to start a YouTube channel and then later finds out that you're absolutely obsessed with cameras and camera gear and nerdy stuff like that.
That's one of the important things that you want to point out about this, Dunna, and you said it perfectly. It's like it has all that stuff for if you just want to start out and you don't need to go out there and learn everything there is to know about photo or video before getting started. You can literally pick this camera up and go. But if you are somebody who has 15, 20 years in the game and you're looking for a camera that you can take on the road, Sia mentioned it, the RX is great, but professional photographers, we all say we want I just want a single shooter with an attached lens and I'll be good. And then you get it. And then here Sony comes along and releases a tiny compact camera with interchangeable lenses. Once you hear interchangeable lenses, that's all you hear. And you're like, wow, you mean I could put any lens on this? And you forget about having a single attached lens and you want that ability to customize, so to speak.
Especially when it's like barely any bigger than a compact camera. Obviously, once you get the lens on there, it's a little bit bigger. But like the body size was so small. Like in my video, I was comparing it to the A6600, which obviously has the bigger battery and stuff. But like, man, they made this camera body tiny. Like it's really compact.
Yeah, is that a big thing to you guys, Kristen and Sia? Like, I know some people, it's like form factor is a huge thing. Are you more concerned with the feature set?
Being compact is definitely very important, especially like for travel video, like what we do. Our backpacks are packed. We have like a carry-on just smashed with a whole bunch of gear and drones and gimbals and all this stuff. So, having something that's lightweight, but also like really thin and easy, is important to us. Absolutely.
Now, Bubolo, everybody, when you talk making cameras smaller and throwing out these compact offerings, you still want to get the same out as far as power. What are we looking like battery life on this or power management?
Mike, you might be muted.
Mike, we can't hear the audio.
Sorry about that. I had a cough before. So battery life, it uses the W series battery, which is similar to the batteries that we use in our Alpha 6000 series besides the 6600. So you're going to get over 80 minutes of video, about 450 to 600 shots of stills, depending on what you're doing. But the camera can be trickle charged via USB-C as well. So if you have it set up as a webcam via the UVC interface with just a simple USB cable, it can also trickle charge it via USB-C at the same time. So
it gets you plenty of life, especially for we got a couple people on here who travel, who get out a lot more than I do. So power is always one of those things where you're like, it matters. You don't want to grab a camera if you're going to be using it as a primary content creation thing for being on the road. You want to have the power to back it up. Now, favorite features. I always like to get into this section early because it's something where everybody has that one thing that matters to them. Some people are very locked into the autofocus. Jake, I watched a review on this and it's like, you look at this camera, you're like, okay, it's for content creators. But every time I see a feature, I'm like, well, man, Sony didn't pull out any stops on this. It's like they got the animal autofocus and everything that you would see in the newest, greatest mirrorless cameras from Sony is going into this. So favorite features, Jake, what was the one thing that stood out to you?
I think product showcase mode. It was one of the neatest features on the ZV-1, and it's still one of the neatest features I think on the ZV-E10. I mean, personally, I think it's such a crucial, simple, subtle feature, because so much of Instagram, TikTok, YouTube now is so much of something, giving information that your audience values, and it's usually a single product, and being able to just put it up like this and it just does that automatically. The camera knows it's in that mode, so the camera knows it's supposed to do that. Once again, I think just simplifies the videography process for any kind of aspiring YouTuber or content creator. So that would be my favorite feature.
Yeah, to Jake's point, to just jump in, it really just accesses a certain feature really quickly. Like the Alpha 7C, the Alpha 7S Mark III, they have that capability, but you have to go in and change your AF sensitivity. You have to go in and change the range in your autofocus system. But this, again, it's just one press, and then you already have it set up automatically. So you can do it on the fly, so to speak, whereas some of the more advanced cameras, you can't do that. So it's really a big advantage to Jake's
So
point.
that was forethought put in where you guys knew what features are going to be more useful or used more often and making them more accessible.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because again, and we keep talking about someone that's just getting into it, but we've even seen a lot of, to bring up the Olympics again, a lot of professionals at the Olympics, it's a really big story beyond just the sports this time. So they want to do, there's a lot of Instagram influencers and photographers that are really high-end professional photographers and videographers that also want to create content for their social media. So a lot of them borrowed ZV-1s for just that purpose, because they want something that's super easy, on the go, be able to grab the content that looks great, that can match their other content, but is something that's really small and easy to use, as opposed to, and obviously they know how to use any gear ever created, and they can create high-end imagery, but they're looking at this as their second tool to be able to create their social media content that's just run and gun.
Now, Dunna, we were talking earlier about YouTube, and you always get commentary whenever you throw something out there on the internet. You're going to get the good, the bad, the ugly, the great. And based on your knowledge of your base, what is something on this camera that people who tune into your channel, I'm sure there's a hot button item or feature that people are always talking about. What's something that you see on the ZV-E10 that your following is going to say, okay, I need that?
So far the biggest thing that I've noticed is that I think this has like a behind the scenes camera. And so I think the compact size is really the winner here, and the price honestly has been the other thing that I've seen from the comments. I just put my video yesterday, so I'm still going through kind of a lot of the initial comments, but those are kind of the two things that I'm seeing that people are saying, like, I need this because I have my FX3 or my A7S III or my A7R4 or whatever it is, my big camera, that's my main thing. But I want something that can be small and compact, but they don't want to sacrifice, like we were talking about earlier with the compact cameras, the point and shoots, they don't want to sacrifice the ability to use the body of lenses that they maybe already have. Maybe they've got a bunch of APS-C stuff from another camera or something that they want to slap on it. But being able to throw this in your backpack without it adding a ton of size and weight to it, I think is huge. Like personally, I just hiked up a mountain a couple of weeks ago with an A7 or an FX3 and my A7S, and like that, it starts to add up, and you're kind of like, do I really need that second camera? But this makes it a little bit easier to toss that in the bag and kind of not worry about whether it is or not gonna get used a whole bunch. And yeah, so I think that's kind of the biggest thing from my audience of people who primarily have already started and are kind of looking to go to the next level with things. But I do think that there's a whole other set of things for people who are just getting into it, which makes this camera even more interesting because it kind of splits to people who are already here and people are already here, and then there are the people in the middle who maybe this isn't necessarily the one for them, but it's cool what this camera is kind of capable of in that kind of split way.
Mm-hmm. Now, Kristen, you were talking about that flip screen earlier, and there was a feature on the screen and on the front of the camera that stuck out to me. And I don't know, maybe it's just me. I don't know if you agree with me on this one, but there's nothing more scary than hitting stop record and you see the red light come on and you're like, I was not recording that whole time. So
can't tell you how many times it's happened to me.
It's like the perfect take. And then you're like,
always.
I'm done. All right, I'm done. I give up. The red box. Bubolo, what do you guys calling that? The red box, the red recording frame.
Yeah.
The red box, right?
Red box.
All right, we'll run with that. The red box.
I like it. I like it.
In the red
roll
box.
with that. Let's roll with that.
It's so helpful, especially like if you're traveling and like things happen that you cannot predict. A lot of spontaneous things, and you just like in that moment you want to grab a camera quickly, turn on, press record, and just hope that you capture it, right? And there have been times where like there's been this amazing moment and I think I'm recording and I'm not, and I'm like, damn it, like that would have been so great to be able to share that with my audience. So having that big red box really lets you know, okay, we're good, we're recording, you're capturing this, which is super helpful, especially in those
when you're shooting outside,
pressure
right?
moments. Yes,
shooting
that
outside
too.
in the bright sunlight, you know, like you're like, I think it's record. I think I see that red dot, but now that that red box is there, you're not gonna doubt yourself.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I think
Well, and like-
specifically with this camera, they've actually got a tally light on the front of it
On the
too.
front
So
too,
even
yeah.
so, even if you're trying not to, you don't want to do the thing where you're looking off to the side the whole time to make sure you're recording or whatever. The tally light is like
yeah.
just right beside the lens, so you're not even like looking off to make sure you're recording all the time.
And even the record button itself is a lot bigger. You're not like searching for it, like where is it again? So that's helpful too.
Well, that's always one of those things with cameras. It's like you sit there and you get a new camera, and it's like you don't want to look like you don't know what you're doing, but it's been 20 minutes now and you can't find how to turn on video mode on a camera, and you're like, so it's like I've been saying this for years. I'm like, just put a big button there that tells me this is how you record video. Now,
and the mode button switch is great too. Being able to switch between the 3 modes very easily, and knowing like big screen comes up and says HFR mode, photo mode, movie mode, like you know exactly what mode you're in.
I want to get into
those little details make a big difference.
Well, it does. I mean, it is those little details that, like I said, everybody has their hot button items. You know, I'm a big autofocus person. So for me, I'm looking at how responsive, how accurate the autofocus system is on a camera before I'm looking at everything else. But some people are very minimal in what they need as far as the technology is required. And it's all ergonomics. Well, I like to know that I can easily change my settings on the fly. And Jake, you alluded to it before that this is the camera for the one person creative team. So all these little things that we're talking about, the red frame, the tally light, having the buttons easily accessible the decision that from somebody who might be looking at 3 or 4 different cameras and saying, which one is for me? And it's like, you know what? I'm just going to take the one that I think I can pick up and go and learn the easiest. And it's going to make my life a heck of a lot easier.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I want to transition into a question. We have Joey joining us here on Zoom. So welcome, Joey. Joey says, with the kit lens on this having a higher f-stop, will the blurred background feature still work with that or other lenses as with the ZV-1, or will it require getting a 28 to 70 millimeter f2.8 to get that depth of field of the ZV-1 lens?
No, you'll definitely, 3.5 to 5.6, even on APS-C, you're going to get really great defocus background. So obviously, when a lot of the content we see out there is with a cell phone, so that's almost impossible to get any kind of defocus control. The ZV-1 has a great lens. It's a 1.8 lens at the widest focal length, so it does do a very good job at giving you the ability to have a defocus background, but you're stuck with that one lens, even though it's a very good lens. Your defocus will be, I don't want to say the same because it's visually a little different, and we can get into the text specs of it, but at 1.8 on the ZV-1 is similar to 5.6 on this camera. So it will kind of give you that same defocus effect. But again, you can put a 35 1.8 on there. You can put a 50 1.8. There's lots of inexpensive primes out there that can give you something that's really wide, even 1.4, 1.2 if you're really looking to do it. So, but yeah, the kit lens will absolutely 100% give you a nice defocus background without a doubt.
Now, Sia, you said you've been long time Sony, going back before even the digital age. What's your main setup like? Where does the ZV-E10 fit into your setup?
I'm starting to use it, as more of like our day use camera. And one of the main features I really like about it is it's not, so this is not just a camera. It's basically a computer that captures light and captures audio. And one thing that I really like about it is how it captures audio. Because other cameras I've used maybe don't have the ability to plug something in. And this has actually 3 ways to capture audio. It has like the built-in like 3-way mic, which is amazing. One of the like best internal mics that I've used. Plus it has the 3.5 millimeter jack, plus it has the hot shoe. Because the same way people look at lenses to be able to attach to their camera, I'm thinking about what microphones do I have that I can attach to this camera. And there might be a ton of mics that I have that, are null and void if the camera doesn't have an application for it or doesn't have the plug for it. So I like that they've really, Sony's really thought about that I can plug my lav into here. I can plug like a big, boom mic in here. I can plug a lot of things in here, which is very handy for our use. And we do a huge variety of videos. We might be shooting like out in the bush somewhere on a hike, or we might be doing like a sit-down tutorial video in our Airstream here. And I really like the feature that I can attach whatever mic I want to accomplish the goal that I'm looking for. So I can really, I can see this camera being more and more used in our content and in our videos.
Yeah, I want to talk about the audio too. I mean, the built-in audio quality is really nice, and you save so much time not having to mic yourself. And if you like have the confidence to know that you could grab this and go vlog without having to mic yourself and sync up the wireless transmitters, check levels, like it's just there. Like I'm in Domino in my video, I do like a vlogger session, I guess, at Domino Park on the walkway there. And it's like I'm on the East River. That's the East River. East River, and it's loud, noisy. It's a park, and like that microphone is isolating my voice. Like it's 50% of your video. Not enough people talk about it, but audio is 50% of your video. And the confidence to just know that you can grab this and just talk to it, and it's going to isolate your voice. Yeah, changed my answer. That's my favorite feature.
And also that hot shoe attached muff. Thank you. That's great too, right?
Well, we had a question come in.
It's 70% of your video, not 50.
Oh, I like
80
that.
minutes.
80? Is it 80?
Keep taking it up.
I can't watch a video if the audio is bad. I can watch a video if the audio is great and the video is like a little bad. I'm cool with that.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. That's one of the first things. I think whenever you watch like the beginner video tutorials, you know, and you're like first learning, one of the first things that you need to learn is that audio is way more important than like your video quality. Like there's obviously a threshold there. Like we don't want to watch a potato, but yeah.
Speak for yourself.
I shouldn't
love
speak for anyone else. I don't.
Some people might be into that. So
it's got off the rails quickly.
Potato videos now.
There we go.
Bubolo's going to start his own channel next week. Now, Mike, can you talk a little bit about options? Because we actually did have a question in that. I saw quite a few questions online about the customization for the audio, what kind of mics, and can you go a little bit more into those options that Sia had mentioned?
Yeah, so to everyone's point, I mean, this is the first camera that actually had the first APS-C camera that has a digital audio interface, because we're not just doing analog audio anymore. We have full uncompressed digital audio interface in this camera as well. So we can utilize like the ECM B1M, which is our new digital audio interface microphone. You can put on our other microphones, like our new wireless Bluetooth microphone, so that way you can use a lav and have it connected onto the camera, and it literally instantly connects as soon as it gets power, the phantom power from the camera itself. We have lapel mics, we have lots of accessories and lots of microphones, but oops, sorry.
Can I use this?
You cannot use the XLR. At least I don't think so. I guess I need to find out for you, but I don't think you can.
A 3.5 millimeter attachment to XLR for sure.
You can.
Yeah,
then
totally.
You can go.
Yeah, that was specifically the one from the FX3 that works with the digital interface. So I was like, I hadn't even thought of that. Not that, I mean, you're taking the tiniest compact camera and then trying to like make it giant, but
throw a cage on it, Dunna.
Curiosity. Yeah.
But I don't want to dismiss it just yet. I'll have to find out and I'll test it out. But I can find out. You guys actually have the cameras and the mic, so you can check it out right now. But I'll find out. But yeah, in terms of audio, to everyone's point, I'm glad you mentioned it, because audio is so important to video that we really wanted to make it a big deal in this camera, because audio is often overlooked. So you do have three ways of doing it, like Sia said. So you have the 3.5 millimeter jack, you have that digital interface, and it looks like a typical hot shoe, but it really is that multi-interface shoe that has those pins inside that a lot of people tend to forget. So it's not just traditional analog video, it's that uncompressed 24-bit channel, 16-bit channel on this camera audio. So it gives you really, really good quality. And that windscreen, the little dead mouse, works extremely well. For something so simple, I'm surprised we haven't done it in the past. So
yeah, so Jake got a lot of use out of that.
They're not really.
I never took it off. Yeah, I never took it off.
I'm convinced that it sounds better with it on. It does, like, it kind of like it changes like the EQ of the voice and stuff a little bit, but I like it better with it on. And the other thing about the audio too that I really like is speaking from behind the camera is it sounds great, absolutely fantastic, because you kind of hold it down. If you're holding it down at your chest kind of thing, you're speaking like right directly into the mic, whereas like if you do have an on-camera like shotgun microphone kind of thing, you're speaking right into the dead zone of your microphone if you're behind the camera, which if you've ever shot a vlog before, you'll know that this is a huge struggle where you're like, I want to show what I'm talking about, so you flip the camera around, you showing what you're talking about, and then you start to talk and you have to try and go in and post and fix it, or you have to sit there and take the time to unscrew the microphone and turn it around backwards, and then the audio levels are all off because it's like basically in your mouth. And it's I found that really cool, especially for again for that kind of vlogging, like where you need to be going quick and you don't want to have to spend the time sorting all that other stuff out, which is a common theme here with talking about this camera.
That's a great point. I think a lot of people, you don't hear that, people talking about really just the positioning of when you're doing this stuff, which way the cameras the microphone is facing, and is the microphone directional, and all that stuff. We always talk about, what you can do with it, but we don't talk about really the real world functionality of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's something that, again, going back to kind of what people need, and like in a very real sense, like, and trying to get away from the camera YouTube niche minds where we all obviously are really excited about technology and that kind of stuff, and then like bringing it back down to like, what do we really need on a functional basis. And I think that's one of the things that I think like we've been saying, it's like the record button's easy to find, and the one button setting changes, like Mike was saying earlier, it's like those are things you can do with other cameras. You could do product showcase feature by turning off your face tracking and going in and changing some of the settings in the focus speed and that kind of stuff on other cameras too, but it takes you 5 minutes to get there. This is like that one button fix. So it's just about making those features simple, not just
faster.
for people who don't know how to do that stuff, but also for people who might just be in a hurry. Maybe I could see this being cool for like shooting weddings too, like where you're having to go on the fly, and like maybe you need that setting changed real quick or something like that. Not that I'm a professional wedding shooter or anything like
Donna's
that.
going to be shooting weddings with it.
No, I'm going to get 100 comments from people like, nah, dude, like don't come at me with that. But yeah, just like there's so many cool little things that come along with making things easier access like that.
Sony definitely prescribed to the mantra, better to have and not need than need and not have. I mean, it has something for everybody, whether you need it or not, or whether you'll use it.
I was just going to say too, 2 years ago, I was at a Sony event and we were actually talking to the magical people that make these cameras, and they sat down with a bunch of us creators as vloggers and asked us, what are the cameras missing? What would be like the ideal vlogging camera? What would it include? What are the features? And then this is the camera. So the fact that we were able to offer our advice, what would be the best thing for us as creators, and they actually took all our advice and made this camera, is pretty damn cool. They listened to us, which is, it feels really good.
I had the exact same experience too at Sony Camera Camp. Was like they sat down with all of us, and like probably like 5 or 10 of the things that I heard people say ended up in the ZV-1. So, and then obviously transferred over to this. Yeah.
Now, have you guys had a chance to stream with it at all?
I did a quick test of the new USB, because that's something that I'm really excited about too, because it's with the last year and everything that how the landscape of things have changed, and we're all doing everything over Zoom and stuff. Obviously, like streaming and Zoom meetings and that kind of stuff have been more. And so the new USB-A, or sorry, what is it called? UVA, UVC.
The UVC.
Yeah, in the USB-C is really cool because it's really plug and play, and it works so easy and it looks so good. So instead of like on previous Sony cameras, you could go through the Imaging Edge software, which in my experience, like kind of worked, but it was limited in that, first of all, the video quality didn't quite turn out what you would want it to be necessarily. There was some kind of compression happening throughout there, and two, it was limited in which programs you could use it with. I found that in some programs you could, and some programs you couldn't, and so then you ended up having to get a capture card with the HDMI ability, that you could use with literally any camera. But with this one, you literally plug in USB, you go to your settings when you go on to your live stream or a Zoom call or something like that, and it just pops up like it's a webcam. Like I could choose, beside my iMac webcam, it would just say like Sony ZV-E10. You click that and you're done, and that's it.
So it's a plug and play situation.
You're streaming both video and audio too, right? Compared to other cameras where you can just use the video.
Yeah.
And the audio, the mic's great. So yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Sweet.
Yeah, it's sweet.
Yeah, I mean, well, especially in the last year and a half, it's one of those things where content creators, I mean, I think everyone's used to polished content, and you record and edit and get up later. But I feel like now the way things are going, it's like, no, I want to be able to get content up live, engage with my audience as I'm actually creating the content, and fill that kind of segment.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the camera that I'm using right now is the FX3. It's like super overkill for this, but it looks great. I've got a natural blur instead of just like the software blur, which you can usually point out pretty easy. And I could get this same look with the ZV-E10 and the right lens, if I used a 16 millimeter f1.4 and get that nice blurry background. It's got great, face autofocus, all that kind of stuff. And to have it be plug and play is huge, in my opinion, for, especially for the price, because the FX3 is just a little bit more expensive than the ZV-E10.
Don't say.
10 or 11 times.
Now, Mike, we always get so into video, right? But I think it's important to point out that this is every bit a stills camera as it is a video camera.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely a stills camera. It shares its heritage, so to speak, from the Alpha 6400. Where you have a 24 megapixel CMOS sensor that's capable of doing really good low light, really shallow depth of field. And because it is APS-C size sensor, even though it's not quite full frame, people forget how good APS-C size sensors can be. It gives you very good dynamic range, good enough to do S-Log2, good enough to do things like S-Log3 in video, bringing it back to video, unfortunately. But it's 11 frames per second with a mechanical shutter. It does things that we haven't really talked about yet, especially in video, but eye autofocus, object tracking autofocus, all the autofocusing features that we've perfected over these years that we've now brought into video as well are also, of course, here in stills. And again, it enables you to just do things with the camera without having to manipulate it and get that autofocus and trying to worry about just focusing on that pupil of the eye all the time. You can actually worry about your subject and actually capturing the correct moment, because rest assured, your camera is likely going to capture 100% of the shots directly on the eye or the object that you're trying to focus on. But the camera as a still photographer is something that we've known and appreciated with the Alpha 6000 series, and a lot of that technology, almost all that technology is here. So I mean, the focusing system beyond just eye autofocus, beyond object tracking, beyond touch to object track, where you just touch the back of the screen to an object, even if it's a fire hydrant or a bird, it'll be able to follow it wherever it goes, even if you're moving. So it'll be able to have really good artificial intelligence in terms of tracking objects. And the width of the focusing system is also amazing too, because almost the entire sensor is autofocusing. So that way, even if your subject goes outside of the boundaries of the 84% of the sensor being in autofocus, it'll still be able to track and move that subject wherever it goes. So even if the eye turns around or goes outside of that focusing system, it'll still be able to track it, even though that focusing system's humongous at 84%. So that's the still camera.
I mean, I know I'm partial to autofocus, but it's something that all of your viewers are going to judge you on. I know I judge people when I watch a video and their focus is going in and out. It reflects the professional nature of the product that you're putting out, and it's not just for people who your old school people are going to be like, well, you should know how to manually focus and zone focus and this and that. And when you're blogging and you're holding your camera up like this, your camera is doing all the work. 100% of that focusing is on your camera.
I mean, I always bring it up. I've been bringing it up for a lot of these, all of our our cameras that have come out recently. It literally is, it's cheating. I'm not even going to say it's like cheating, because it is cheating. Like the camera being able to focus on just not the eyelash, not the eyebrow, like the pupil of the eyeball, wherever it goes, even if it's of my 4-year-old running around like a crazy person, or my puppy running around like a crazy person, or the two of them together, it's going to focus on them, and I'm going to get every single shot sharp. It's just not fair, because I think back in the day when, you know, you would shoot 1,200 shots and be like, oh man, I got 60 of them sharp, like, and they still wouldn't be quite on the pupil of the eye. Now you can literally just not have to worry about your gear anymore. You can trust the autofocusing. And I think that's why this camera and the ZV-1 exists, because you weren't able to do this before. Like, you can make it as easy as you want, and you can make the autofocus okay, but if it's not going to work perfectly, like literally 100% of the time, it's just, you're going to look like an amateur, and your video is going to show because of it, and you're going to have to manually manipulate it to be able to get the most out of it. But now the technology is so stinking good, you're able to get that professional look and feel because the camera is going to autofocus for you. And especially when you start talking about video, I mean, you've never been able to do that in video. Especially, I mean, people talk about how you shouldn't autofocus in video, but you try rack focusing on someone's pupil of their eye at 1.4 or 1.2, it opens up doors that you've never been able to do before, and creativity that you've never been able to do before on any product. Because I don't know about you, no matter how good the manual focus is, I can't shoot, 1.2 and track someone's pupil of their eye wherever it goes. It's impossible. And that's why you see these types of cameras now shooting sideline sports and getting that really shallow depth of field. You see at the Olympics a lot right now, where the background is just completely blurred, and the athlete is completely sharp and following their eye wherever it goes, no matter how fast they're moving. It's just pretty darn cool.
Do you guys? Does anyone else take a focus puller when you're vlogging? You hire somebody to come out with you?
No, you don't have one.
It's standard, right?
Standard, yeah. I thought that just comes with the territory. It's in the budget.
Part of the budget.
I was wondering with Jake, when I was watching Jake's video, I was trying to figure out. I'm like, I know we have a video team. I'm like, does he have some people out there from the video team with him? What is he doing? Jake, can you take us behind the scenes of your test drive of the ZV-E10?
Sure.
Was it 100% Estes?
No. Someone did have to shoot me using it, so to prove that I was actually there using the camera. So I did have Doug there shooting me using the camera. That I did need somebody. But yeah, no, mostly it was pretty much just me the whole time. Me in the studio by myself. And Doug's only there to capture that I'm using it. But other than that, it's just me walking around Domino Park using the camera. I think that that one shot of me walking along that walkway there, I think just sells the camera, because it just shows you how easy it is, especially when you talk about this, but also, having auto exposure and like face priority mode, like, we talk about focusing, but a lot of times when you're outdoors and it's just you're vlogging, you can't change exposure as the sun or the light changes. So the camera is also doing that for you as well. So it's always prioritizing the proper exposure for your face, which is crucial. If you're in focus but your highlights are blown out,
doesn't matter.
That's another giveaway to amateur looking footage, is if your exposure is incorrect. So once again, this a cameraman would usually take care of that for you, but you don't need a camera person with this camera, because it's just going to take care of that for you once again. So yeah.
And that's one of the things that a lot of people don't realize unless they do shoot a lot of video. Coming from a still photography background, it's like you don't really appreciate until you start doing video how easy it is to take a single still image and manipulate it if you screw something up. Video, it is not. I mean, video is like the perfect example of why you need to get everything right in camera, why you need to know how to manually control things, or in this case, why you need to have a camera that is smart enough and has the AI to say, okay, well, he's backlit here, but I'm focused on his face. And, it takes all these readings and calculations and gives you the product that you want right there and then.
Yeah, in real time. I mean, there's a sample where I'm sort of, I think I put a flag in front of my face, and it changes the exposure to, properly expose my face. And then I'm outside, I go from direct sunlight into shade, then back out from shade back into sun. You can watch it happen in real time. So it's just, once again, it's just this confidence, that I keep coming back to, knowing that you can pick up a camera and it's going to sound and look good with just you holding it. I think is just the remarkable tech that Sony is able to put in such a small, compact camera.
Mm-hmm. What's the menu like on this camera? We had a question come in from the SL Artist. Welcome, joining us from YouTube. Is this new menu, same old menu?
Muted again, Mike.
Yep, it's the older menu, so to speak. So it's not the newest one that you see on the Alpha 7C or the Alpha 1. I mean the Alpha 7S Mark III or the Alpha 1. So it's the same as what you have on the other 6000 series cameras, the Alpha 7C, etc. So
it's comfortability. People say new and old, but it's like old is comfortable. Old is recognizable. You go in there, and I mean, it's the last thing you want. You get a new camera with a bunch of new features, and you got to learn a new menu system. I know for me, it's like no, I don't.
Yeah, it was very familiar. If anyone has used Sony cameras before or the ZV-1, like it's pretty much the same menu.
Yeah,
very easy to
that's
navigate.
the word, Jake. Familiar.
Yeah, the ones on the Alpha 1 and the Alpha 7S Mark III are, the UI is pretty graphics intensive, so to speak, so it doesn't require a different processor, that's all. So, and this one doesn't have that, but it doesn't need it because it's able to do all these things we're talking about even without the most advanced processor. So
you spend so little time in the menus that I think that's really the key. And it is the newer old menu too, where it's like it's got the colors on the tabs and stuff like that. So it is like slightly updated from me as like an old A6000 user where it was like all black and white in the menus and that kind of stuff. It's the newer old menu.
At the Dunna's point, I always say you never really need to ever go into the menu for anything besides formatting the card, because you have the function button, the F button on the back of the camera that you can control like 16 different options, and it's separate for stills and video. You have custom buttons on the outside of the camera beyond just the regular quick access buttons that we've been talking about. So anything you really ever need to change is right there on the outside of the camera. So it's just, again, makes everything a lot more efficient, a lot easy. So until you need to format that card, which you should, don't ever just delete it on your computer. I always like to have a PSA. It's real easy. So
yeah, you go in there once, you set it up, and then you forget about it after that. You just use your function menu.
Yeah, one of the main things that I immediately recognized when I picked up the camera is that there's no viewfinder. And I thought that I was going to miss it more. On our A7 cameras, I'm like almost constantly using it. On this, I found that I didn't really miss it as much as I thought I was going to miss it, because the flip screen's good enough. And I'm thankful that in whatever that space that viewfinder was taken up, they added more features that I want to use more, right? So that I think they packed more into a camera by eliminating that feature. And for the most part, I wasn't going to use it.
I'm the opposite. I say just take it off. Photography cameras, maybe I'm more like a dedicated photography camera. I would use the viewfinder more, but I've been a monitor person for the whole time that I've been holding cameras and stuff, and I think that it opens up a lot of opportunities. And like Kristen was saying, like the flip screen is huge on this, and obviously like we're seeing it on a handful of other Sony cameras now, and I think a lot of people are pleased about that. But yeah, it's a decent screen too. Like I was out shooting in bright daylight and getting by just fine. You gotta, every once in a while you gotta shade it a little bit, but I didn't have any trouble with it at all. So
yeah, that's a big thing. I'm glad you pointed that out. I knew there was something that we were missing, and there was something that I noticed and wanted to point out. I'm a big viewfinder person too. I'm that person you go out and it's like I shooting video through a viewfinder. Like, what? That just tells you right there, like, this guy doesn't belong shooting video. Get him away from the camera. But
I use it too, man.
It's a cool experience shooting video through a viewfinder.
depends on the situation. But yeah, I use it.
Yeah,
It's
I think you probably do it a lot better.
It's a very like dividing topic in the comment sections. I find like when a camera comes out without a viewfinder on it, I find that there are very much two camps. People who are like, I am never touching this camera ever because I need my viewfinder, and then there are the people who are just like, get rid of it, give me something else, like put something else in its place, like, you know. So yeah.
Well, while we're talking about the contentious comment sections, you know, another a topic that always comes up in the comment sections is stabilization. You have the people who, for like the last 15 years, if a camera came out without stabilization, it was like, camera sucks, it's not good. And then you have, you know, now we're starting to see stabilization a lot more. Is that something that matters to you guys?
100%. Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. I was actually like looking at upgrading our gimbal system because it's important. Like stabilization is important. I remember even like running down the beach with our Phantom, with our drone, just like holding it because of the stabilization of it. Back before like I had a gimbal, and now seeing like that there's like standard stabilization on these cameras, and then there's action, which is incredible. It looks like a gimbal. Like you almost like wouldn't be able to tell the difference.
Wow.
So it is important for what we do. We're constantly moving. We're not in studio where you know the world is our studio. So we have to go out and move around and be walking and, you know, trying to film a running kid. You need stabilization.
Yeah, and I think one of the things
Good
too
luck.
is that it opens up some possibilities for lenses without stabilization in them too. Like I think for a long time the way that Sony was making their lenses, there were a lot of the lenses that were intended for like the APS-C cameras, there was more OSS on those lenses, and now you have the option to use non-OSS lenses because you've got that active stabilization. You still get some stabilization out of it. Like I was running with the Sigma 16, which doesn't have stabilization, and the standard stabilization is blocked out because I think that's just turning on the OSS, and then the active stabilization made it so that all of a sudden I have a lens that I didn't have to pay for stabilization in, but all of a sudden I have the like you said, like somewhat gimbal-like stabilization. Like it really is super smooth, and you have to make sure that you're getting lenses that are wide enough, because you do have to factor in the fact that there is a bit of a crop, and it is definitely a noticeable crop. It's not like the 120p tiny little crop that you barely notice on some of the Sony cameras. Like it's definitely there. But if you kind of keep that in mind when you're picking up lenses for this camera, I think that it's a huge advantage.
Definitely. Well, we are coming up on our hour here, and I definitely wanted to give ample time for you guys to remind everybody where to find your work and any last words. So we'll keep it with you, Dunna. Where can we find more of your work, and any last words for it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm dunnadidit.com if you want to check out my website, and then YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. It's all just like /dunnadidit, and that's where you'll find me. Yeah.
Wonderful. Kristen and Sia, where we can find more of you guys?
I can go. You can find us on YouTube, our blog, Instagram, all the social, Hopscotch the Globe. And yeah, right now, as I said, we have lots of adventures traveling across the US in our Airstream home. So weekly, new content.
Yeah, hey, good. Keeping it regular, keeping it consistent.
Video content, yes. And we'll be using this camera so you can see it in action.
Yes, so for everyone who wants to actually see it in action, there you go. You have it right there. Kristen just guaranteed us you're going to be getting to see some ZV-E10 content there. Jake, where can we find that luxurious beard of yours on the internet? Told you I'd get it in.
You did. You promised me. You can find me on B&H YouTube channel. I'm there quite regularly. If you go there now, I'm sure you'll see my face on quite a few different reviews of products across the spectrum of video, audio, photography gear. So yeah, hop on over there. It's a fun channel. We review a lot of gear.
And Mike Bubolo, close us out. Last words. When are you going to start the Potato YouTube channel? All that jazz.
Oh, it's already done. I've been doing it this whole time. So it's already sprouting like those little green things. But Dunna, so I found out the XLR does work on the ZV-E10.
I can't think of why I would want to do that, but that's very cool that it works.
You can.
Yeah.
That's what matters.
So we weren't able to stump Sony. Dunna was just throwing that out. He just wanted
I was
to
throwing
see.
it out. Actually, I have one more question if we have time for it. One that came
Go
up in
for
my
it.
comments today. This is probably from Mike. When you're using the USB-C for live streaming, is it also able to charge at the same time?
It depends on the power of the computer, but yeah, it'll trickle charge at the same time.
No way.
It will
There
actually
you
run
go.
out if you're doing it live. But it does take a lot less power than if you're actually recording to a memory card. Because when you're doing the UVC, you're not actually recording; you just have the camera on, so it takes very little power. But like I'm using the same type of setup here, and it does trickle charge it. But after a few hours, it will cut out. So
Yeah.
you get a lot more than the 80 minutes that the battery is capable of by itself.
Sweet. I got to go change my response to a comment then.
Glad
It's
we
not
got
the
that
power
in there.
delivery like on the big cameras, on the big boys,
Yeah.
but it is a trickle charger. So
Yeah, it's enough that like if you're doing like an hour stream or something like that, you should be all right. You don't need to go buy dummy batteries or anything like that.
no, and you can also use, of course, like a battery bank, like an external battery bank if you're hiking, and you can charge it in your backpack while walking around to give yourself a little extra charge as well. So
Very cool.
Wonderful. Well, I want to extend a huge thank you to everyone on the panel. This has been great. It's whenever I see that I'm hosting a panel, I know it's always going to be good. And if Bubolo's on it, it's like, it's easy. I know he's got it. He's got it. If I don't have it, he's got it. So I want to thank you guys for your time. And really, this is just a lot of fun. Got a lot of great information. A huge, huge, huge thank you to our sponsor, Sony, not just for sponsoring today's event, but for, as Kristen said earlier, listening to creatives. I mean, we are out there doing this. It's our passion. A lot of people are, it's their livelihood. They're making money with this. So to know that the brands that are out there making the gear we use are listening to our voices and what we want in cameras is huge. So a huge thank you to Sony in that regard. I'm sure everybody else on the panel echoes my sentiments on that. And to all of our viewers, not just those who are tuning in now, but everybody who tunes in to Kristen, Sia, Dunna, Jake on the YouTube channel, everyone. We can't do it without you. We do it for you, same as we do it here on the B&H Virtual Event Space, the place for free educational content and new gear. So I want to thank everybody. Huge thank you to everybody out there viewing. Make sure you check out and support our creatives that we have on the panel today. And that's all I got for you. So keep your eyes to the sky. We'll see what gear we have for you next time. This has been another rendition of the B&H Virtual